Anything going on this week? I'm going to start by inviting you to take a deep breath. And then take another one. And then one more. The election. You probably feel it in the air, you probably feel it in your body. Whatever you are feeling, prayer can help. If it's done right. If you do it right. In today's gospel, Jesus is asked how to pray, and he gives a clear answer. It is the basis for the prayer you'll hear in most churches and in many settings. It's the Lord's Prayer. Many or most or all of you may know it by heart. And it provides stability, familiarity, and comfort to Christians everywhere. It unites and connects us. It has been said that this prayer covers everything we need to acknowledge in relationship with God. So it's a good prayer and a good way to pray, but it's not the only way. Now, before I go further, I want to acknowledge that some of you may not pray or think about prayer in the way I'm going to talk about it. And that's okay. If it's not a word or a practice familiar to you, just see where this goes. See how this lands with you. See how you can make it your own. See if my message can fit with you somehow today. Jesus is asked how to pray after he returns from prayer somewhere else. We aren't told how he was praying. And in fact, there are several times in the Gospels when we know Jesus prays, but we're not sure how. We are told that Jesus would slip away to deserted places or go up on a mountain alone. At one point when he was praying alone, he was close enough to his disciples to engage with them and ask him that question: who do they say that I am? On the other hand, there are many times when his prayers are expressive, when he rejoices and thanks God. He's not always alone. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he takes 3 disciples with him and asks them not to fall asleep, to just be with him and be attentive. I think he should have prayed harder. At that time, he engages more with God. He pleads with God. My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Later on the cross, he prays out loud to God, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And he even expresses doubt. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? My favorite prayer is at the Last Supper, when his prayer is one of intercession for his disciples. John chapter 17 gives us 26 verses of Jesus basically asking God to protect and empower his disciples as he prepares to leave them. I'm probably breaking some rule by mentioning this passage and not reading it all, but I know there are expectations about when we're going to get out of here today. So let me lift up what I think captures Jesus' focus at that time. In the early chapter 17, he says, Holy Father, watch over them in your name, the name you gave me, that they will be one just as we are one. And towards the end of that chapter, he says, as you sent me into the world, so I have sent them into the world. I made myself holy on their behalf so that they also would be made holy in the truth. That was his prayer at a pretty intense time. I was part of an exercise one time in which I was invited to be creative in spending time with this prayer passage, to place myself in the scene, to see, hear, feel, to wonder what it was like and see how I was moved. I came away from that time thinking that Jesus might have been so aware of the magnitude of this time and what he was facing, and that he cared so much for his disciples, that he was basically praying the same thing over and over with similar and repeated words. It's like that beautiful thing we do when we're in front of a group of people to praise someone, and we just keep putting words together. We're trying to honor them and respect them, but sometimes we stumble around and we repeat. And some people get annoyed because they're ready to go back for seconds and they want us to sit down. But we do our best to honor in that way, and it's good. Throughout his life, Jesus shows us that prayer can be different. Prayer evolves with us as we evolve as people. Different situations require different prayers and different postures. Prayer is like that old commercial that's pretty appropriate this time of year. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. Unfortunately, too many people don't remember that, but when we get to new chapters in life, we are often told how to do it. Like being told how to pray when it's a new thing. And that can serve a purpose. But as we grow in relationship with self, others, and God, we must do the work of trusting who we are becoming and what newness requires. That can be scary and risky. About a decade ago, I pastored a small church in College Park, Maryland. As part of the hiring process, I met several times with a small group of founders and leaders. Those leaders were also the team that I spent a lot of time with exploring ways to worship, plan programming, and discern vision. About a year into my time, over a coffee check-in with one of the sharper, more committed, deeper members, he said to me, "I feel like I don't really know you." That made me ask, do I know what I'm doing? What did I skip? What did I miss? Story is important. Being known in community is important. My family and I have been members of Westmoreland for almost a decade. I know many of you, this is a new relationship and a great time for a short introduction so you don't have to ask me who I am here. And the story I want to emphasize today is the one about how I have tried to honor the crooked path of calling and relationship with God. A path that has kept me from only praying the Lord's Prayer. But first, here's the quick run through of the practical stuff. It's sort of like the checking the vital signs for beginning relationships in our culture. You know, the stuff you gotta know. So here we go. Born and raised in East Tennessee. Lifelong Methodist until about age 30. College in Virginia. First job after college right outside of New York City with an insurance company, where I started asking big questions about faith, suffering, and calling. Then down to DC to work on Capitol Hill and save the world, where then I considered maybe teaching or social work or Peace Corps. Maybe that's a better way to save the world. And that time included a secretive office romance with JoJo while working for the same member of Congress. But you know what? Who would have really cared? After learning that pastors actually got trained at this place called a seminary, I fought God on the calling to go to Wesley Seminary right down the street, but God won. Some good years with sojourners advocating on Capitol Hill followed, and I was deeply formed by being part of a lay-led ecumenical church for a decade. I have some folks here from there today. Cole came into the world very gently and changed everything, as kids can do. Pastoral counseling degree at Loyola, spiritual direction training, and then a decade of doing that stuff with Bob Maddox over at the Carpenter's house, helping people along the journey. And formative years as community counselor to the Westmoreland Service Corps. Great honor. And then Cora, into this world like a ball of fire. And leading the Catholic Volunteer Network, which is like a faith-based AmeriCorps and Peace Corps. And now here, wondering what the looks on your faces mean for the rest of the year. How are we doing on time? Those are the tangible aspects of my journey that may help us begin conversations. But what's more important, and what I hope will lead to deeper connection, is I have tried to take the spiritual journey seriously. I've had ups and downs, faith and doubt, questions about decisions. But I have never let go of the conviction that God will keep using and empowering me. And I believe that about each of you too. I've had several moments where I felt called to step in an unusual direction without being able to explain why. I like how Parker Palmer summarizes such vocational moments. He says that vocation is something I can't not do for reasons I can't fully explain and don't fully understand myself. Vocation is something I can't not do for reasons I can't fully explain and don't fully understand myself. I've had times years later where I asked if some of my steps were calling or just ego and convenience. I've always tried to help others and accept that how I do that can look differently as I go through life and learn more about my gifts and needs. But I sometimes wonder, is it about them or is it about me? You know what? I've learned that these can be fun and terrifying parts of the journey that are actually a form of prayer. Even if you haven't found the focus to pray it or say the words, it is a form of prayer. God can handle honesty from us, and God can handle how we are with God. So prayer and story evolve based on relationship with God. And most importantly, I've learned that I can't respond to God without the support of family, community, and mentors. Responding well requires prayer. Prayer is a way of being that is right for you and God based on how you are and where you are at a given point in time. That is both beautiful and messy. I am pretty confident that a lot of you all have journeys and stories that have unique twists and turns and surprises. There is no one way to journey. Prayer, or whatever you call it, is your intentional, winding, trusting, risky, crazy as heck relationship with God. I was at a retreat years ago led by a professor of theology with a PhD. He was also ordained and had written many books. He was wise and thoughtful. He could explain a lot about religion and spirituality. He could probably explain prayer better than me. He shared a story one time of spending a week in nature, solo camping, just with the intent of being in nature, being with God, and maybe discerning a thing or two. Several days into that time, he said he felt moved to offer probably the deepest prayer of his life. He went to the mountain where he was camping, and he faced the mountain, and he screamed. This week is part of your story, and our nation's story. That's big and messy and personal and communal. Don't pray how you think you should. Instead, pray from your heart, soul, being, whatever. And do it with the conviction that God cares. That Jesus feels the same way about you as he did his disciples when he asked God to care for them. Maybe you cry, sit in silence, ramble for hours, sing, laugh, or scream. Or Or maybe you pray as Jesus taught the disciples. Pray like that.